heart today, talking about his son, Otto, who was returned from North Korea after serving, 16 months of his sentence. He spoke publicly this morning for the very first time on his son's release, and I wanted you to hear what he had to say to media. It was very, very, very touching, and really communicated from the heart. And also, he fielded a lot of questions from the media. Again, learned a lot more about what he was going through, the community, his family, and Otto really with the North Koreans. But very interesting perspective from Otto's dad. And here is Fred Warmbier from this morning.
Thank you, everyone, for coming here. And I made a decision this morning to wear the coat that Otto wore when he was, a prisoner in North Korea. This is a coat he wore when he did his confession, and I thought it was an amazing performance. I'm proud of him, and I'll start with an opening statement. I want to thank everyone who has shared their thoughts, prayers, and best wishes with the Warmbier family during the past 17 months. The burden of our ordeal has been eased by the support we have experienced, not only from our friends in Cincinnati, but throughout Ohio, at the University of Virginia, throughout the United States, and indeed from around the world. I'd also like to thank Todd, Lynn, Mr. Seiler, Mr. Burke from Wyoming High School. This is a place where Otto experienced some of the best moments of his young life, and he would be pleased to know that his return to the United States would be acknowledged on these grounds. My wife Cindy is at Otto's side this morning, as she has been since the moment he returned to Ohio. She wanted me to tell you that she knows that Otto is a fighter, and she and I firmly believe that he fought to stay alive through the worst that the North Koreans could put him through in order to return to the family and community he loves. Cindy joins me in expressing our gratitude to so many people. The wonderful people at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center are providing Otto the excellent medical care he has been denied for so long. As you know, the doctors there will be holding a press conference this afternoon to discuss Otto's medical status, and I will leave the details of such matters to them. We also want to thank Senator Rob Portman, who has stood by us throughout this entire ordeal. Last evening, we received a very nice phone call from President Trump, who told us that Secretary of State Tillerson worked hard to help bring Otto home. We are extremely grateful for their efforts and concern. I would like to highlight this morning the bittersweet feeling that my family has. Relief that Otto is now home in the arms of those who love him. And anger that he was so brutally treated for so long. We went for 15 months without a word from or about Otto. It was only a week ago that we were informed that the North Korean government now claims he was in a coma for almost all of that time. Even if you believe their explanation of botulism and a sleeping pill causing the coma, and we don't, there is no excuse for any civilized nation to have kept his condition secret and denied him top-notch medical care for so long. When Otto was first taken, we were advised by the past administration to take a low profile while they worked to obtain his release. We did so without result. Earlier this year, Cindy and I decided the time for strategic patience was over, and we made a few media appearances and traveled to Washington to meet with Ambassador Joe Yoon at the State Department. It is my understanding that Ambassador Yoon and his team, at the direction of the President, aggressively pursued resolution of the situation. They have our thanks for bringing Otto home. I know you have many questions about what transpired. So do we. We have few answers. There's no excuse for the way the North Koreans treated our son, and no excuse for the way they have treated so many others. I call on them to release the other Americans being held. No other family should have to endure what the Warmbiers have. Thank you.
Fred Warmbier, talking about his son in North Korea. And also, did you hear the part where he said that he didn't get any action from the previous administration? As a matter of fact, he was to keep a low profile, no ribbons on the trees, no press, no newspaper, no television interviews, keep a low profile, and to no avail. Nothing happened. And you know why, folks? Nothing happened because he didn't do anything. He's a spineless individual. Spineless. And you got to watch that new Brad Pitt video. It shows what our generals have been going, just leading from behind, but no leadership, just devoid of a leadership. It's just evident on the climate of what is wrought in today's society and what he had brought out in 8 years of inactivity, inaction, race baiting, and really empowering the liberal movement of today for progressivism that basically does not live in reality whatsoever. It's not. It's evil, in my opinion. As I've said this all along, liberalism, in my opinion, is a disease. Frank Warmbier, he's got lots to say to the media and from all over the country. He was asked, could the past administration have done more? We're going to bullet these.
I think the results speak for themselves.
I mean, let's hear that one more time. Could they have?
I think the results speak for themselves.
I think the results speak for themselves. Absolutely. From what you see around the country, the results do speak for themselves. What did your efforts consist of to help bring your son back from North Korea?
We've been to Washington, D.C. over a dozen times. We met everyone in the past administration, from John Kerry to the Swedish ambassador Sternloff, who lives in Pyongyang. He came in town. We met his aide when he came in town. We've met our senators, our congressmen. We've worked with Governor Richardson. So we were. Those were our efforts, and we relied on this false premise that they would treat Otto fairly and let him go. And Otto was held as a war criminal. They termed his confinement as a war criminal, and so that seemed to get Cindy and I's attention, and so we knew the dynamic was changing, and honestly, nothing was happening in our world for Otto. No communication, no letters, nothing. So we did what we could. We tried to stay low. We were advised that it was important that you don't upset the North Koreans. And so we followed that logic. And then there came a time where we're tired. That doesn't seem to have any impact. So we went public with an interview and on the Tucker Carlson show, and then did a couple written pieces, and then very quickly we have Otto home.
Yeah, and that's the dad, very emotional, but great communicator, answering a lot of questions today on television. I thought some of this audio would be appropriate to really hear his heart and his thoughts on the North Korean government. Thoughts about your son?
I'm proud of Otto and the courage he showed by going to North Korea and having that adventurous side to him. And so the fact that he was taken and treated this way is horrible, and it's tough to process, but we're tremendously proud of him. And so that we're looking to the future.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the North Korean government's basically saying that Otto has been in a coma for a year. Doctors have been able to obviously look at his brain and his condition, and it's been known that he has severe neurological issues. And this afternoon, a little bit later on this afternoon, we're going to learn a little bit more details about what that really means and whether or not he actually will ever open his eyes and regain consciousness, because it's a possibility, and we hope to God it's not true after all he's been through, but he may not regain consciousness any longer. And Dennis Rodman's still over there saying that he's having friends, and this has nothing to do, he's having friends over for dinner, but nothing to do with the White House. And you can see with fancy glasses and nice food. Meanwhile, there's millions starving in the country, and he's chilling with friends. After what he does and what he's done, what he knows that it happens in his country, Dennis Rodman and Ray Conscience, he can sit there with friends. He calls him a friend. Give me a break. What a tyrant. What an evil tyrant he is, and the wickedest on the planet. And Dennis Rodman sits there and dines with him and calls him a friend. I think it's deplorable. It's disgusting. But again, it speaks to a lot of people in this country, I hate to say it, that have the same mindset and don't find anything wrong with it whatsoever. I think it's disgusting. Now, the question is to the father today by one of the news media. They says, do you think that your son fell into a coma? Because I say, right after the trial, it's been a little, over a year or something like that he's been in it. So he answers.
Personally, North Korea is a pariah regime. They're brutal and they're terroristic. You can't believe anything. Well, it's your choice. We don't believe anything they say. We see the results of their actions with Otto. So it's all speculation.
All right, but if you could speak to the North Korean government, to them directly, what would you say to them?
I would say I'm so proud of Otto, my son, who has been in a pariah regime for the last 18 months, brutalized and terrorized, and he's now home with his family. And I'm just tremendously proud of Otto. His spirit is with us, and I can share my spirit with his spirit, and I'm just so happy for that.
Now, there's a lot of places that you could go on the planet. And the way that his dad describes his son Otto, we're talking about Fred, which is Otto's dad, says that his son was adventurous, that he liked adventure, it was a thrill seeker. What I know about North Korea, I've been watching documentaries and reading books through the years about North Korea and how they treat people, and one recently showing how evil and tyrannical the government really is that you don't see and that Un would not mention is the beatings that go on in the prisons, but they beat the bodies after they're dead just because. This is a constant practice of evil. If there was ever an evil, that is just disgusting. And just to think that Rodman's over there toasting champagne and enjoying Kim Jong-un and his company, and that's, weird and weirder. Not dumb and dumb. Well, he is dumb. Now, the question was posed to Fred, Otto's dad, once again, how did he end up in North Korea?
The North Koreans lure Americans to travel to North Korea via tour groups run out of China who advertise slick ads on the internet proclaiming no American ever gets detained off of our tours, and this is a safe place to go. So Otto's a young, thrill-seeking, great kid who was going to be in that part of the world for a college experience and said, hey, I've heard some friends who have done this. I would like to do this. So we agreed to let him do that. They lure Americans, and then they take them hostage, and then they do things to them. And that's what happened to my son. He was taken hostage at the airport as he was trying to leave the country. And then he was put through the trial, which we've all seen. He performed amazingly well. And here we are today.
Just a rule of thumb, and it definitely was not right for what the North Koreans have done and what they have done throughout the years. I mean, they're just awful. They hate Americans. Don't go to North Korea. And if you go out of country to an American, don't ever steal anything, even if you think it's funny. He wanted a poster. He wanted a souvenir of the late dictator, his grandpapa. He was going to take that down. Kim Jong II. You just don't mess around. You don't fool around. I mean, you don't spit on the